I'll be all right, though.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today is the 26th day of April, Friday, just past 11 a.m. We have with us today, as always, Ken Haas.
Hey.
And coming up from Tennessee, we have Rick Vito and Joe Naylor. Take it away, boys.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Reverend Guitar Circle R Ranch, coming to you live from sunny, beautiful Toledo, Ohio. It looks kind of like this outside, only a little brighter. It's absolutely gorgeous here. Still cold, though. What's up with that, Jeff?
I don't know.
Okay. So, we are absolutely very, very fortunate to have Rick Vito with us here today. This is really special. Rick, thank you so much.
Thank you.
As you guys know, who are paying attention, we have been doing what we call the Circle R sessions, where bands set up on this stage and give us some video, and they've been going great.
Yeah.
And Greg Koch and the Koch Marshall Trio were in here a few months ago, giving us some video. And about 5 years ago now, Rick toured with Greg around the Midwest and Northeast.
Exactly.
Using Dylan and Toby as his backup band, and then Greg would come out, and then you guys would do stuff together.
Right.
And so it was kind of a really cool and natural fit. Greg and Koch Marshall Trio were in Toledo last night, and we timed this all out so that Rick could do some songs here in the studio with Toby and Dylan. So you can look forward to seeing those hitting the YouTube channel in probably a few weeks. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But we will definitely let you know. So anybody who is following our media or Rick's media will know when that happened.
Yes.
So that's why Rick is here. And I'm excited to get to talk to you about this, because I have heard a bunch of great stories about your career and tracks that you've played on and things that you've done. And I think it's going to be fun to share those with people. So the first question is always the hardest. Tell us how you got your start. How long have you been playing guitar?
Oh my gosh. We're going way back.
Yeah, well, a couple years.
All right. Crank. I started playing guitar, when rock and roll started getting popular with Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis and all that. It was my mother, when she was a girl, played the acoustic Hawaiian lap guitar. Because Hawaiian music was real popular in the 30s. And she learned to play, and her class would play on the local radio, she told me. And so we had that guitar in the house. And when Elvis came out and was bopping around, that's what I did. And it's actually, my father recorded a little bit of that on a little 8mm camera.
Neat.
So they got me my own lessons because they saw that I was really interested, and I just pretty much stuck with it all this time. And
so that kind of explains why you gravitate towards slide playing, and you play slide so well.
I don't know, maybe it's somehow in the genes, but thank you for that. Yeah, because she definitely was sliding. I still have the little bar that my grandfather made at Westinghouse for her. He was a tool and die guy. But so I played, all through high school and, the dances and then later bars and semi-professionally in college. And, I got to open the show for Muddy Waters. And
cool.
Soon after that, I became friendly with a group called Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, who Eric Clapton had been touring with. And they were doing the kind of music I really loved. It was this mixture of, roots rock and roll, little blues, a little R&B, kind of gospel-y feel. I thought it was really a cool direction for a rock act at the time when everything else was kind of loud and shredding and freaky.
Yeah.
So I became friendly with them, and one time they invited me to sit in with them on stage, and I happened to have my guitar, and
Just happened to.
just happened to, yeah. And it was one of those, bring down the house moments. I knew all their stuff, and they kind of turned around and like, who's this kid, And so they advised me, if I wanted to get in the music business, to go to Los Angeles. So at the end of the school year, which was my end of fourth year of college, I went out there. I had worked with Todd Rundgren, and he was living out there, and he invited me to stay at his place just by accident. Ran into him, and so I had a place to stay. And I got into their band, Delaney and Bonnie's band, and went on tour with them, and that's how I started.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
this would have been around
71.
71.
Yes.
So, and then you ended up playing for John Mayall.
Yeah,
Was
that came a
that
few
next?
years later. No, during the following years in the early '70s, I was like a hand-to-mouth guy,
Yeah.
pick networking as best I could and doing little odd gigs with whomever would come along. I toured with Dobie Gray and the Friends of Distinction. I worked with Little Richard and some of the early rock and roll acts like the Olympics and Wolfman Jack, the DJ, host of TV show and all. So just whatever I could find.
Yeah.
And then Larry Taylor from Canned Heat, the bass player, invited me to go with him up to John Mayall's house, who was looking for a guitar player. And I went up to Laurel Canyon, his whole Laurel Canyon home, and we played a few songs, and he offered me that gig. So that was really the first exposure gig I ever had in the mid-'70s.
And then that led to Jackson Browne and Bob
Yes,
Seger.
Bonnie Raitt, Bob Seger.
Bonnie Raitt. Did you play with Bonnie in the 70s as well as in the 90s?
I did. I substituted for a good friend of mine, Will McFarlane. His wife had twins. And so I was coming off a gig with Roger McGuinn from the Byrds.
Jeez, man.
We had a band called Thunderbird, which nobody really heard of too much. But I got friendly with Bonnie during those gigs. And when Will wasn't available, I subbed. And her opening act, oddly enough, was Muddy Waters. And then she also had people like John Lee Hooker and all these blues, the real blues guys would be the opening acts. So I was in heaven. And so I did that with Bonnie in the 70s. And then I came back in the gig with her again in 1980, and then again in 98. So we're friends, and it's just one of those things.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then during the 80s, you spent most of that time in Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, well, 4 years.
4 years.
Like 87 through 91, actually. Yeah.
Did you record anything with them in that
Oh,
era?
yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just not familiar with the band, just to be honest. I'm just not familiar with that era of the band as much as I should be, I suppose.
I did, the first thing we did was we went on tour. They had an album out called Tango in the Night.
Okay, I remember that.
Okay, that was a big record. It had a few hits off it.
Yeah.
And I was called in at the 11th hour and asked to join that group because Lindsey Buckingham had left right on the eve of the tour. So quickly learned some songs. They liked what I was doing, and we did the tour. And at the end of the tour, we started recording for their greatest hits package. And there was a song called "As Long as You Follow," which you'll hear in the supermarkets all the time.
Yeah, sure.
Seems to be
Yeah.
played a lot in stores and such. But that was the first thing I did. And then we did a full album, which I wrote four songs.
Amazing.
Yeah, and wrote with Stevie Nicks, and Chris McVie, and it was great.
So did you start your fascination with Peter Green's playing before or after that? Because I've heard you play the Peter Green material, and it
Thank
makes
you.
the hair on my arms stand up.
Oh, no, yeah, way before.
Yeah,
That was the
okay.
thing that Mick and I connected on.
Sure.
Because when we did a recording session together once, and before I joined, and I talked about seeing him in Philadelphia, and I remember everything about it, and he loved that because that was near and dear to his heart.
Yeah.
So when I came into the band, I knowing that material, resurfaced some of those great old songs. Like most people don't know that the song "Black Magic Woman" was originally a Fleetwood Mac song, written and recorded by Peter Green with Fleetwood Mac, and things like that. So that gave me a little bit of a presence within the band at that time. Yeah, he was incredible. Peter Green was an incredible guitar player at a very young age, a great singer, a great band leader, a great songwriter. He was everything that I aspired to be.
Yeah.
Very tasty, and I like that kind of approach.
Absolute legend.
Yes.
No question. So throughout, so I'm going to shift gears into the guitar thing here just a little bit. So throughout this era,
Yeah.
you have become pretty renowned in the vintage guitar community for your guitar collection and guitars that you have owned.
Yeah.
Was the fascination with the instrument itself part of it right from the beginning, and then just blossomed as your career sort of took off and these vintage guitars became accessible to you?
Yeah.
Was it just sort of a natural growth thing?
I think so. I mean, I used to know a guy in my hometown who was he loved James Burton, and he had a Telecaster.
Yeah.
And he showed me how to bend strings, and I went, oh, that opened up that whole world,
Sure.
of going up the neck, playing up here, and at that time, you couldn't even buy rock and roll strings. You had to get a normal set of strings and work them down, so your A string would become your E string. Then you'd buy a banjo string to put on your top E, so you could get slinky. So he told me about James Burton, and he said, yeah, man, you got to try to find a Telecaster, especially one with a maple neck from the 50s. That's the one, And so I was always on the lookout for one. And my first Telecaster turned out to be a 63, which was, just a little bit after I had a rosewood neck, but still a great classic guitar. And then I learned about, old Les Pauls, and I was able, and we could find these guitars, Ken, for 125, 150 bucks.
The good old days.
52 Les Paul, 59 Telly, I got for 150 bucks, and a lot of them we ruined because we didn't
They were
know.
used
They were
guitars.
used guitars. There was no vintage guitar market. That's why it got to be popular to strip the old paint off. Oh, let's put a natural finish on that guitar,
Put a humbucker in that Telly,
and
right?
put a humbucker in there, right? So, I think I'll have to go to purgatory for a couple of those.
You still have that old Telly?
Oh, I wish
No.
they've gone the way.
One of my favorite stories that I've heard you tell a few times is you had a set of 58 Flying V and Explorer.
I did.
And am I remembering this correct? I always wonder how much of this stuff I filled in the blanks in my head, but you were touring with Fleetwood Mac, and you saw, was it the V at the hotel bar?
No, you're close.
Okay.
I was at the hotel bar, and we had a night off. It was the night before Thanksgiving. And so we had 2 nights off, and we were in, not too far from here, Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, yeah.
And I asked the guy, Bellman, is there any bands playing that you know of? And he goes, oh yeah, you got to go see Big Ed and the All-Stars, Big Ed. I said, well, what's that? And he said, it's kind of blues, real friendly bar, So I went, me and this guy, got a cab and went to this bar, and sitting there having a beer or whatever, and band's good, and I looked over after a while, and the lead guitar guy was an older gentleman. He was sitting there, kind of hunched over, and I went around to see what he was playing. It was an Explorer. And I looked closer, and I said, I think that's a real Explorer. And it was. And so I waited till the guy went on his break, and
One of what, 70 something that they made?
yeah, that's yeah.
In 58 or what, yeah.
Yeah, no, the Explorers, there was less than 20 of them.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
And the Vs, the Flying Vs were, about 70 or
Okay.
78 or something like that.
Okay.
So I went up to the gentleman and I said, how is it that no one has ever tried to buy that guitar from you? I said, asked him, he'd had it since new. I said, how is it? He said, man, everybody always talks about it, but no one's ever come up with any money. I said, well, I'm Rick Vito, and I'm on tour with a very popular band. I'm having a great year. I said, if you're interested in selling it, if the money will do you good, I'm interested. But, I want to be really cautious here, because if you've had that guitar this long, I don't want you to regret it,
Yeah.
So why don't we do this? give me your number. Let's sleep on it. Have Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow, and I'll call you tomorrow evening and see what you think. And that's what I did. I called him, and he said, well, I've thought about it a lot. He said, I was in a car accident, and I could, I'm not playing as much as I used to, and I could use the money. And so he said, but there's one condition. I said, oh, okay. What's the condition? He said, well, the condition is you got to buy this and my Flying V too, that I got at the same time. And I, of course, just about fell off my chair. And so we worked it out, the business end of it, and the next day I had both of those guitars, and it was just like I was walking on a cloud. I couldn't even believe that kind of good fortune, because they are literally, there's rare guitars, but then there are the holy grails of rare, and those two certainly fall into that category. Yeah.
That's such a great story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And those of course have gone on the wayside by now as well. One of them was a Gibson, right?
Yeah, I kept them for 20.
I don't usually say the G word here, but this is cool. So.
Yeah. I did keep them for about 20 years, so I enjoyed them for a really long time. Yeah. And, things happen and whatever. Yeah. And one is in the hands of a private collector, and last I heard, the Explorer was in the Gibson vault.
Wow. It's something like that, I can imagine, there's pressure to just owning something that's so valuable, that's so... you've got this guitar that's worth $600,000 or something. Where do you keep it? Under your bed? There's something about that would get... I'd be willing to give it a shot if the opportunity were afforded to me.
I have to ask, did you ever gig with those guitars?
Just locally. But no, I never took them on the road. Once I got them home, first of all, they needed work, especially the Flying V was unplayable. Okay. It was completely frozen. It was covered in mold and funk, and it had been sitting in this guy's basement in a wooden box, and it just very, very bad shape. In fact, I didn't even know if I could get it back in working condition, but it took some doing, but we did. But yeah, you're right. After a while, I didn't think of it so much at first, but later on, when the values started going up and up and up, it did sort of feel like a little bit of a responsibility, a little extra added pressure. And Vintage Guitar Magazine did a piece on it, which I thought, in my naivete, would be like on the back end of the magazine, a little short thing like, here's a picture of Rick's guitars, Well, as it turns out, that they wound up on the cover, and the full story, of that I just explained to you, was retold, and I started getting barraged from people all around the world about these guitars. It actually made me very upset, because I had to deal with it. I didn't expect that, and
that's fascinating.
it's sort of...
These were guys calling you who thought you still had them and wanted to buy them?
I did still have them
Oh,
at
you
that
did?
point, yeah. And yes, collectors from all around the world were emailing me and gotten my number and this and that, and I was hearing from people I never knew.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange.
Yeah. That market is very strange. We'll be in Dallas next week, and Joe and I have been doing... Well, Joe was doing the shows long before I came around, and I started doing them with you in about 98 or 99, 2000. And just the way the vintage guitar shows have progressed in the last 25 years is crazy, let alone the time before that, But,
it is crazy, yeah. And some of the fun has gone out of it because the prices are so high now.
Yeah, you have to be, there's a certain kind of person that can sort of play in that world, and most of the business that I see going on at the shows is the dealers doing business with each other, because they have high-end customers that they know.
Yeah.
This guy wants this guy wants that, and on the day that the guitar show's being set up, most of the business is being done.
Yeah.
between the dealers themselves.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, especially in the first day when the public's not
Yeah.
even
VIP
allowed in
buyers
yet.
and dealers.
That's
and,
right.
I don't think
Yeah.
the hidden gems are out there like they used to be back in the day either.
No.
Like Grandma, all the Les Pauls that were under Grandma's bed, I think have already been pried loose
Yeah.
at this point.
It's really funny you mentioned that. The same girl who I was in college with, who told me about Delaney and Bonnie, who turned out to be my first gig, contacted me 25 years later. I don't really even know this lady, but she worked with old people in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is near where we went to school. And I guess it was early 2000s or so. And she said, "Oh, I've been trying to track you down." She said, I work with, older people and, who are living on their own and stuff. And we went into this lady's house and she needed something out of the attic, and we found a guitar up there that I thought you'd be interested in. It was a 57 gold top standard that had never been played.
Oh my God.
It had not a scratch on it. It was, she bought it for her son, who, when he was a kid, and he wound up not playing it, sat up there. One of those literal stories of finding something like that and of course I'd appreciate it to the point where I really, wasn't about to spend that kind of money on my own, but I went in on it, and we with a friend of mine who was a dealer, and bought it, and just to resell it.
Yeah.
But those things happen occasionally,
Yeah,
but not very often.
Not very often, that's for sure. One of the, by the way, get your questions ready, everybody. If you have any questions for Joe or for Rick, put them in the comments. These guys are back here, and we're gonna come around to that here in just a minute. One of the things that's made us so popular, I believe, with you and with a lot of artists of your caliber that we work with, like Pete and everybody, you have these vintage guitars, yet you're still active, you're still touring. You want a dependable instrument that you can take on the road that's going to get you into that sonic territory, that looks cool, plays great, is a workhorse, all of that. And that's where Joe came into the picture for you. So where did you, I'm going to let you guys talk amongst yourselves about where you met and how we ended up doing 4 signature models.
That's right.
Over the
Yeah,
years.
that's
Over
right.
how many years now? 25?
25, right? The
Yeah.
first would have been 99 or
99.
2000?
Yeah,
99.
we started Reverend in 97. So you were in the first couple of years, I believe. I think you knew about us from a friend, Jeff Ross, right?
Yes,
Jeff
I knew
Ross.
Yeah.
Jeff Ross since he was like 15 or 16, working in a car wash
Yeah.
outside of Los Angeles. And I went over to his house one time because he had been studying how to play Django Reinhardt style, which I was interested in, but not very good at it at all. But he's pretty good at it. So I went to his house, and he was going to just show me a couple of things. And there in the corner was one of those 3 pickup Reverends with the not Dan Electro, but
The lipstick picture.
Lipstick.
Spy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And picked it up and played it, and I said, "This is absolutely great. It's better than a Dan Electro. There's obviously a lot more quality into this instrument." And so he put me in touch with you.
Yes.
And I was about to go on the road with out on a leg of the tour with Bonnie Raitt, opening for Eric Clapton in Europe. And so I wanted to see if I could get one of these guitars to take on the road with me, because as Ken says, they are the most dependable, authentic sounding, great playing guitars that I'd ever come across. And so I wanted that.
And I can't remember if we built, the first one we did for you, was that a lipstick tube one or a P90 one?
It was, and it was a lipstick one, which to my ears was fabulous at lower volumes, sitting in or a small club or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I got on that big stage and you're on the same stage with Bonnie Raitt and Eric Clapton. You really want that guitar to sing out, and for some reason I just couldn't make those lipstick pickups
Yeah.
produce what I wanted them to. So I got back in touch with you and said, you know, it's not really working. And you said, well, no worries, we got all kinds of pickups. Let me send you a slingshot.
Yes.
And got me a slingshot with 2 P90s. And that was it.
Yeah, you get that mid-range punch.
Yeah, that was
the
it.
lipsticks are a little bit low output and a
Which-
little
but-
bit transparent maybe for that kind of situation.
But that situation, yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I loved them.
Yeah.
So you had that sort of heather pink, right, slingshot? Yeah.
My first slingshot, I can't remember. It was just a cream-colored one, I think.
Yeah, yeah. We weren't doing the pink thing yet, I don't think, that early on.
Yeah, later, after that, a couple years later, so you made me a special, because I had a record out called Pink and Black.
Yeah, I remember that.
And
yeah.
you made me a special guitar just to sort of commemorate that record, and the front was pink and the back was black.
I
I
think
still have it. It's a great, absolutely great guitar.
I feel like we've done like maybe 3 or 4 guitars that were related to a record you were releasing.
Yeah,
Like
that's
directly
true.
related to the record.
Right.
As far as the aesthetics and the vibe or whatever.
Yeah, soon after that, you asked me if I would like to have a signature guitar. And I had a record out called Lucky Devils.
Yes.
And I had a coat on, wearing a coat that I custom hand painted with all these crazy things on it, like skulls and
Voodoo
moons
stuff,
and
yeah.
stars and
Okay, which
you
is
know,
actually
Mojo.
Yeah, grab
this
it.
one right here. Let's take
Right.
a look at this one.
So you had the idea of incorporating all of those ideas onto the face and back of a slingshot, which would be the Rick Vito signature model, and here it is.
Yeah, so got the skulls and the snake stuff.
You did the snake, I didn't have
Yeah.
the snake. That was your idea.
I added that, I
But I
guess,
did have all these stars and,
from your coat.
yep, from the
Yeah.
coat directly, yeah.
And this one is actually aluminum, front and back, that's been sandblasted by a local lady. And then we did the skull on the headstock too. Just
Yeah.
Why not? Because you can't have too many skulls. And 2 P90s, of course.
Mojo doll there on the back.
Yeah, like the voodoo doll guy. Play well, which kind of became our slogan, if you reverse it, well played.
Huh,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Commission checks in the mail, Rick.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so this was the first signature we did
Yes.
with you. And this coincided with the album art too, correct? Or you were holding this on the album?
No, I had the coat on.
You had the coat on, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
So this came after that record came out.
okay. Very cool.
Very, very hot P90s.
Yeah, the P90s on this, and especially,
Excuse
I don't know if you did a special one just for the bridge or whether they're both that way, but they're wound hot and have just a wonderful sound.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Very unique
We
sound.
jacked those up quite a bit. I think we hit like 14K on that bridge one.
Yeah.
And our stock one was like 9K at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So-
But your stock ones were very unique also, which were different, a different sound for the pink and black guitar. So when I go on tour, I bring that pink and black one you made and this one, and really had a nice rainbow of sounds, colors.
Was it the pink and black one that you played on the, you did like a Arlen Roth thing, right? A Hot Licks video, or you did something along those lines in that era? I can see the cover of it in my head.
What is this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Sorry, well,
Yeah.
you lost me on that one. I have worked with Arlen Roth on a couple of his projects, but don't remember. I know I did a Hal Leonard instructional slide guitar DVD,
That must be what I'm
and
thinking
that's
of.
got the pink one on there.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
I got a question, and this is going backwards a little bit, but so you were in Guitar Player magazine, and you were holding your Streamliner guitar, which is an extremely Art Deco
Right.
pink and black guitar, which was built by a Los Angeles luthier, correct?
Yes.
But I remember seeing that, and I can't remember what year that was. That must how far back that was.
Yeah. Must have been somewhere around the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe.
Okay, okay.
No, well, yeah, maybe a little after that.
Yeah, yeah. But I remember when I first saw that guitar, and it was so Art Deco, and I was like, oh my God, this guy gets it. I love this. and it kind of stuck in my head, and I think I actually cut the picture out, put it on the wall at one point.
Yeah.
And it was influential in the way I thought about how the lines, what you could do with Art Deco on a guitar, and so you can obviously see it in the pick guards and stuff, in the shapes. But so that inadvertently, influenced some of the design work, and of course the later models we did with you with all the Art Deco influence.
Yeah, the second signature we came out with definitely was a cross combination of my Art Deco ideas and you're appreciating that and also having your own ideas on the table. So we sort of cross blended that and came up with the second, which is really a beautiful, beautiful guitar, I think.
Yeah, I think that was our first solid body we did with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I wish I had one.
You don't have one?
I don't have one.
I'll send you one. I've got 6 or 8 of them.
Okay, we need to make that happen. This is
Yeah.
the conversation that we're going to
Yeah,
have.
okay.
Yeah, we're going to
It's,
have that conversation after. I kept one of the prototypes for a really, really long time. And then another artist that I work with wanted it so badly that I eventually gave in.
Yeah, I mean, you produced those in quite an array of colors. I don't have all the colors you did, but I mean, the first ones were green and black. And then we had like a rose and a blue and
Gold.
Gold,
Gold,
right?
And the,
Yeah.
and the cream one with the Revtron style
cream
pickups
ones,
and the
then
Bixby, that was stunner.
and then a second green color
Yeah.
with the Revtrons. So like 7 or 8 different colors. And I had one custom done where I took a turquoise one and had a guy paint it cream, white, sort of white. So it kept the bones of the guitar, but just it's all black and white. It's really cool looking.
We did some interesting things with the pickups on those too. The bridge pickup was kind of like riffing on an old Supro style pickup.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, you expressed some interest in not only going back to like a traditional humbucker sound here and there, but also getting back to the bolt-on feel neck, because you really like the neck on this original guitar. And then that is where signature model number 3 came in, which is the Soul Shaker. And I have, when we did this, we made 3 prototypes. And as the guitar went into production, we ended up doing it with a white pearl top and a black pearl top.
Yes.
And then Joe and I made this as a prototype just to see this sort of deconstructed look with the maple top and the Carina back. And of course, Gurian Instruments' fabulous black and white binding.
Yeah, this checker binding we get custom made specifically just for this model.
Yeah.
And the current
And the
model.
current model, yeah.
So this binding is actually made out of a dyed kind of fiber. It's kind of like wood, really. And they make this by hand.
Yeah.
And it's Gurian, and they're in
Seattle.
Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never seen one with the natural wood finish like that. I saw it on the drawing board, but I didn't know this one of these even existed.
Yeah.
To leave it up to you.
That lives in a case here.
Yeah, there's not a scratch
Yeah,
on
I
it.
love that guitar.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's pretty. So the production ones both of them had perloid tops, right?
Yes.
Both models, yes, a dark perloid.
Yeah.
And then a white perloid.
And then you later came out with a blue and a pink
Yes,
on a
yes,
short run.
yeah. And this, I believe, had our standard humbuckers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those
okay.
Which are just amazing sounding pickups. I
Yeah.
love them. Absolutely love them.
But yeah, this is a pretty cool one. And this one was the Soul Shaker, and the new one is the Soul Agent.
Yeah.
Just to be clear there.
And this transition was made to get you back into the P90 sound on the neck, of course. This is Soul Agent and Orchid Pink. I'll pass this over to you guys. And like, same with the binding is the same as it was on the Soul Shaker. And Rick, you called a few years ago and just expressed interest in doing something that was more Reverend-y. Something that was a little more fit with what we were doing and what we had done originally with the body shape and all of that, and kind of wanting to circle back to where we started, and that was where this model came up.
Yeah, well,
is
this
very
one,
flattering.
this one here also came out without the images on it.
Yes.
And one of them was just a plain old black with, and I was looking at the pictures of that and I'm thinking, we really did have a lot of this right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So, this guitar in black is very cool looking, black on black, like the original one with pretty much the same body shape, but adding this binding, and we have push-pull knobs on this now, which gives you an out-of-phase sound in the middle position, and then you have this ingenious thing where you're able to keep this in humbucking mode, but yet have a little bit more of a bright single coil-ish sound.
Yeah,
which
this,
affects both pickups, and I use both of those features quite a lot.
This one is actually like our bass contour, but it's preset to basically, if you took a bass contour and turned it all the way off, I guess.
Yeah.
For the single coil sound.
Get a little brighter sound.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the ebony board on a bolt-on is fun.
Oh, man.
That's not, that's not something that you normally see, and it does give it this very spanky, bright sound.
It does.
Feels nice too. It's very slick.
Yeah, and I don't know how it's done, but this roller bridge with the Bigsby and just, I don't know what goes into this, but these stay in tune. And I use the Bigsby quite a lot, and I'm never perplexed on stage at the guitar, messing up or having to constantly retune. For some reason, these things just really are quite reliable, which is what you want out of a Reverend.
I got you.
Yeah, well, the locking tuners and the
The locking
special
tuners.
nut there help a lot with the tuning stability. Another thing about that guitar is it's pretty hollowed out on the wings.
Yeah,
I would
very
consider
light.
that probably a semi-hollow guitar, technically.
And it has a spruce top as well, which harkens
Yeah.
back to some of our construction 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's like
So
a
it
thin
gives it
spruce
this
top.
zing.
Yeah, it resonates pretty loud. It's kind of a nod back to the old, phenolic models that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very unique sounding.
Have you seen the video I did for Cadillac Man, my new album?
Oh yeah, of course.
Well, I'm using this guitar, and I'm using the out-of-phase sound. And so you really get a good example of what the guitar looks like and sounds like, which I was really happy we were able to use that song for the video.
Before we take questions, I want to ask one more too. Yesterday on one of the songs that you played here, you played a fretless guitar. You set us a fretless neck, a graphite neck, and that's very unusual.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of fretless six string. You see, sure, yeah. And here comes John is going to hand this thing up. We set this up here for you. Sent the neck to us, and we set this up for you on one of the green ones. And it sounds incredible.
Thank you.
And it's such an interesting style. You use vibrato like you're playing slide. You do like a traditional vibrato thing. What started your fascination with fretless guitar, and how many hours did you put into being able to do it so well?
Not enough. I'll tell you that. It's the hardest thing, because it's like playing a violin, and your intonation has to be spot on, and you have to have your vibrato. You play it differently than like with the guitar, you'll bend a string and you'll go like this, where this is way more like the true vibrato that a cello player or violin player would use. And so what was the fascination? I don't know. I think I saw a guy on YouTube playing the sarod, the Indian sarod, which is a fretless Indian with a sort of aluminum neck. And I thought, well, that sort of sounds like a slide guitar. Yeah. And I started looking into it. And of course, there's been fretless bass,
Sure.
ever since Jaco Pastorius made that popular. And I said, well, if the bass players can do it, why can't the guitar players do it? So it's been something I've been working at on the side for a number of years now. And I'd say in the last 5 or 6 years, I'm finally starting to get a little bit comfortable with it. But it's odd. Sometimes I have to spray the neck down with WD-40 or Pam cooking spray or something. Just if it gets too humid outside and your fingers get sweaty, you can't do it. It's
Interesting.
It just kind of like doesn't work. So yeah, the conditions have to be right.
Wait till you guys see this video we did yesterday with him on that guitar. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Boys, questions from the outside world. What's going on out there?
Yeah, sure. We got a couple questions.
All right.
Eric has one for all of you. He says, Rick, Joe, and Ken, what do you think is going to happen to the vintage market once the boomers phase out of the market?
The boomers. I probably everybody has different opinions on this, but from being around the shows a lot, there are more guitars sort of creeping out of the woodwork now, and there is a small group of people that are interested in them enough that it is keeping the values up. Guys my age, Gen X guys that have money from whatever it is that they're doing that can afford that sort of thing. I think there's an interesting cultural shift with where people with money spend their money, and there's still enough people that dig the guitars that we're sort of keeping it, where our generation is keeping it alive, for better or for worse. I mean, it prices me right out of that game, but I don't see the values going down anytime soon.
No,
Do
the
you, Joe?
market's not going anywhere. It's those instruments will always be extremely valuable.
I mean, the big brands can make all the reissues in the world, but they can never go back and make another Flying V in 1959, or they can never go back and make another no caster like
Right.
that. Those guitars, there's X number of them,
Yeah.
and as the interest in this industry grows, that number never changes. So that's always
Yeah.
that keeps the value up.
Well, they're historical instruments. I mean, if you look at a Stradivarius violin, are they still worth millions? Heck yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And they will always be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and same thing with guitars.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, so Nick Handley wants to know, for Rick, if you have any tour plans coming up.
I do not. I don't have any tour plans presently, for one reason or another. See what happens.
That was one of the reasons why we wanted to shoot these videos, to help you promote the record. And
Yeah.
you help us promote the guitar brand, and we help you promote the record. That's how it works.
You know, in the old days, of course, everybody was younger in the old days, but also it was a lot more economically feasible to tour, and there was not such an onslaught of competition like there is now. There's just, so many bands, so many artists out there. It's like saying, are you going to go on tour? It's sort of like saying, are you going to start up a brand new business? Because it's just not as easy as it sounds anymore.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. Hi, Nick. Thanks for asking.
Waffle Potato from YouTube asks, is Carina wood a premium wood for guitar making?
Joe?
Certainly is. It actually, Carina was used in the aforementioned 58 Flying V, 58 Explorers that Rick was talking about earlier, and is considered a premium wood. Absolutely, that's why we use it. But we mostly use it for the tonal qualities. It's very versatile. Works great with just about any pickup you throw at it. Very resonant, nice lightweight. So yes.
Cool.
That was easy.
Eric's got one for Rick. I'm going to butcher this, but hey, Rick, have you checked out David Fusinski's fretless playing? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that last name correctly.
I'm sorry to say I have not heard him, but I have heard other players who are very good at it. I've observed that a couple of the guys I noticed had long fingers, sort of like Robert Johnson, spindly, and that might enable them to be more proficient at playing chords and such. I can't do much in the way of chords on this, and I don't know many players that are doing it, but I have heard some guys that are really impressive at it. So I'll check him out one of these days.
Awesome.
That's all I got for you guys right now.
Nice. So what's next for everybody here? We're going to be releasing, we have about a half a dozen videos that we're going to be putting out over the next few months.
Yeah.
Next couple months, whatever, we'll get together and sync all of that up and get it going.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Naylor
I haven't
and-
seen any of them yet.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's going to take, we got to get the sound dialed in first, and
Yeah.
then we'll start editing this stuff together, and we'll definitely show you stuff before we put it out there, and you can get with Jeff and figure out how you want to release them, and we'll go from there.
That'll be great.
Naylor and I are working on a couple of pretty big projects right now. We have some artist projects going on. There's one of a new artist, a new signature artist that we'll be hopefully releasing guitars with by the end of the year. Keeps sneaking pictures out on the internet about things that we're working on, which is kind of exciting. I'm not going to spill the beans here yet, but
there's always something going on.
But it's always
here.
out there.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're also working on something special and new with Greg and Fishman, and we're going to see that.
Greg Koch.
That's the man, the legend.
The Dali, Salvador Dali of the Gristle guitar.
Yes. He
Your former tour mate as well.
Tourmate, yeah, and he appeared in one of the songs that we did yesterday towards
nice.
the end.
Yeah.
And
Can't wait to
trade
see
off. Really nice.
And Greg's out. He's in Evansville tonight and in St. Louis. But then, so coming up for me, Penny and I are leaving next week for the Dallas International Guitar Festival. Our friend Jimmy Wallace. Rick has performed there numerous times over the years. Won't be there this year, but
Not this year.
maybe again at some point in the future. And Greg and I are doing. Reverend is sponsoring the clinician stage indoors at the Dallas Festival, and Greg and I are doing clinics Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 2 p.m. And Greg will be performing, I believe, Saturday night with the Koch Marshall Trio, and then Sunday with the Masters of the Telecaster, where Greg gets up with Red Volkart and Johnny Highland and whoever else happens to be there, and they play, get this, a lot of notes, like lots. And it's,
I could only imagine.
it's pretty awesome. So the Dallas show is a blast. That is next week. So next Friday morning, Penny and I will be live from the floor of the Dallas show, only on Facebook. That won't translate to YouTube, I'm afraid. But if you're watching us on Facebook, you can watch us next Friday live from Dallas. We'll show you the booth and our surroundings, and I'll walk around the show with my camera, and if there's anything interesting, we'll definitely be able to check it all out together. So, Joe, Rick, thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
We really appreciate you coming. We had such a blast over
Thanks
the
for
last
having
couple
me.
days. I can't wait to get that content out
Yeah,
there.
this is really
And
cool.
Thanks for sharing your stories with us. You guys have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy spring. And we'll see you next week from Dallas, Texas. Have a good day.